Hey there. Hey, I'm under the gun again today. Got another out-of-town trip planned right before the semester, and I'm trying to get some videos done. And today I'm going to do a quick drawing. This is down and dirty, hopefully with little or no edits that I have to do, so I can get out there and post it for you to watch. I'm going to be drawing a still life today. And that's going to give me the opportunity to talk to you about mark making, which is one of the key fundamental things that you have to really kind of wrap your head around if you're just getting started on your creative journey, learning how to draw so that hopefully you can do either elaborate, detailed drawings or use that skill set and move it into watercolor. So if you're just getting started, this little video should be something that will be very handy and helpful for you to get you up and running. So I'm going to be working with a photograph of a pear for reference, and it always helps when you're learning how to draw, because one of the first things before you even put a pencil to paper is to recognize that you're going to have to learn how to see and trust your eyes and really look at the data that's being provided to you. And you have to work real hard to kind of break away from making assumptions about what you see. So observing is the first thing, and you can do that either through a photograph or from real life. Real life's a very good lesson, taking a three-dimensional object and learning how to translate it into basic shapes, which you can then work with your mark making to create form, structure, and detail to make that drawing come to life. So let's get started with this pear. And I'm working with an ebony pencil. This is something that I covered in my drawing supplies video just a couple weeks ago. And the cool thing about graphite or charcoal, any erodible type of media, a pencil or a stick, is that you can vary between drawing lines or creating tone and mass. So that's what I'm going to start with right here. I'm going to hold the pencil in an underhand grip, and we're going to use the length of this graphite right here on there, and we're just going to start in and we're going to just build a rough shape, very light. And that's the cool thing about this as well, is that it's the marks that you make can be light and informative, right? So the marks are not detailed, we're not jumping right into the heavy detail, and you can create tone, which in a shape will then start appearing as modeling and form right here. So, and then there's even a shadow that comes out here. So I'm just roughing out everything that I'll hopefully come back in and add detail to. So coming in, bouncing, looking for shapes, how that might transfer over into an overall form. And now I'm working a little more with not just tone, but just a little more of a line, because there's shapes over here, there's a leaf up here. I'm just going to tone it down. It's almost in silhouette, right? So we'll just come in here and I'm going to draw leaf shape. All right, so we already, with just tone, have created the outline for what I can then do with my line work. All right, the cool thing about this, again, the harder you press, the darker the marks get. So if I wanted to, I can really come in and start pressing and bearing down a little more and working to create an interesting mark. A mark that has character. A mark that has contrast and value and tone. Okay. Alright, so we have a very dark looking shadow on the side of this pear, which is a spherical shape, right? So we're already starting to get some good things happening. And it's really dark right up underneath it, right off onto the ground. And if you notice, the marks I'm making now, there's still tone and value, but now I'm starting to work with the idea that shadow's on the ground, so I flattened out my mark and it becomes a directional indication of what the object is that I'm drawing, and in this case it's a shadow on a tabletop. All right, and then we'll transition, bring that over onto the side, and we'll just keep building up just like a way the old photographs were developed in the dark rooms decades and decades ago before the digital. You start light and work up to the dark. So, and then once you get to that point, the whole drawing could just be continually refined and brought up more and more with just the value, just the tone. The tone is also a matter of irregular shapes to create modeling, surface qualities, textures, everything that you might want in your drawing. And then when you're ready and you want to add specificity, we are now working with line. Line being a structural component. I'm just going to bend and work that contour edge, that really dark line right down along the bottom here, that we can now start adding definition, structure, and clarification on this whole piece right here. So, nice thing about mark making as well with a pencil is the harder you press, the darker it gets. And with line, it can be a thick line tapering down to a thin. It can be a solid line and it breaks. So a broken line, which indicates like continuation, one of the design elements and principles. And we're just going to keep working with it, building it up, finding the structure. Come back out here now, a little more value around that core of the shadow on the floor. And just keep bringing it out. And with graphite, charcoal, and all that, you can smear, smudge, and push that pigment around on the paper to your heart's content. But I'm going to come back over now. Transferring back over to a structural line right here. I'm going to get this leaf built real quick. There we go. Comes down right in there. Finding shapes, getting the shapes in the right value range. Is it a silhouette? Is it have modeling to it? Then we're going to get some overlaps right in through here. So the mark making really is a key component to what you're able to do with your artwork. And you'll use this whether you're drawing with pencil, charcoal, or even ink. You may have some limitations when you're drawing with ink, in that with ink you cannot, unless you're working with a nib pen, you can't vary the weight. So if you're working with a Sharpie or some type of a marker like that, the width is pretty much set, and you just kind of have to retrace and go over your line to make it thicker. So all right, so now we're definitely starting to work with structural marks in here, textural marks. Marks do so many different things. If you want to get a kind of a nice sense of form, you can create some cross contour marks in through here to create and help accentuate the sense of the form in this pear. You could even come in and add in some cross contour hatching right in here as well. We can work positive and negative. Let's say we want that lighter side to appear light. We'll add the dark tone right next to it to make it appear light. And because this is now the background going up in the distance, I'll make a mark that goes vertical. So there's a lot of decisions to make as you draw your subject matter. And that whole leaf is very dark, so I need to throw some value into that, knock down the key, the light on it. That stump right there needs to be a little darker. We'll throw that up and around like that. Get the back side of the pear right there. Yeah, so all of these things coming together, mark making being a key component. and you will use this as you're painting with watercolor as well. Watercolor is about finding shapes and assigning the right color, the right tone, the right value, the right hue to it. One thing to know about drawing with graphite also is that the darker you get, the more you press, you get more and more of that value range onto the paper. Graphite tends to get a sheen to it. It gets shiny. So if you like that, that's great, not a big problem. Charcoal and Conte crayon, they're both very flat. They don't develop any kind of a sheen as you draw and get darker and darker. So as you can see, I'm just building up, trying to get a sense of a value range in this drawing of this pear, and try to get, using the modeling, using the textures, using the value, the contrast, to create a sense of three-dimensional form. So, all right, so, and you just keep working it. I'm just doing a little smudging, evening out some of the tone. There we go. Get a little more. Line can indicate motion, structure, and all sorts of details. And we can even come in making marks, irregular marks, dots and textures. So start with something simple, just getting started. Keep it simple. Make a drawing of an apple, of a lemon. Look at things and try to replicate the surface qualities and the textures that you're seeing. Okay, once you get enough pigment and or media onto the board, you can come in and use a kneaded eraser, and you can start finding other ways of adding some of your lightness back in. Like right down here on the bottom edge, I'm going to pop in a little more of a reflected light right down there. Experiment with your mark making. Be inventive. Find out what you like working with, whether it's graphite, whether it's pencil, charcoal, ink. And I'll do an ink tutorial here before long, and you can see the differences, similarities and the differences between graphite and having the ability to create tone as opposed to pencils with no ability of value other than the illusion that you create through hatching. Alright, so there we go. We have a quick pear with our mark making, working with a pencil, with lines, with tone, value, textures, and done with confidence, because that's the key thing when you're drawing and mark making, is being able to have confidence in the mark that you're making, because any insecurities, any unsure decisions that you're making will come right down from your brain, through your arm, into your hand, through the pencil, and onto the piece of paper. So practice a lot, overcome any insecurities you might have about making a mark with whatever it is you're drawing, whether it's a still life, an architecture, a landscape, whatever it is. Be confident and make a confident mark, one with character, information, structure, detail, whatever it is your heart desires, and make sure you do it like you mean it. So, hey, I hope this tutorial has been helpful. Give me a like and a subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.